He knew right away. He knew that this was not another strain or re-aggravation. He knew that thing was torn, and it was the worst nightmare when you take it all into consideration.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, Like I said before, had he decided not to play, I would have had no problem with it. The fact that he decided to play, I had no problem with it. I think it's a decision you consult with your doctors, and it's a decision that you make as a high-level athlete. And you never know if you're going to get back to this part or point in your career, but it's tough. I don't have any problem with the fact that he decided he wanted to play.
I think the way you said it is best, is there is no wrong answer here.
I don't think so.
Anybody who is scolding Tyrese Haliburton for playing...
Or scolding the team for, quote-unquote, allowing a grown-ass man, a professional, to play.
Yeah, and I don't know if we know the exact situations. From what I understood, I've heard Wendy and some of the other media guys break this down, is that supposedly the Pacers training staff told Haliburton when they got the MRI, or depending on the strain, that if this were the regular season, you would be out multiple weeks. Not multiple games, multiple weeks. This would be a week-to-week injury where he could miss a month, 5 weeks, who knows. And he was able to gut through it, and he gutted through Game 6.
Played, 24 minutes, I think, in Game 6?
He played very well, and he was off to a good start in this game. So anyone, who wants to scold, I think when we talked about it again, I don't know if we really drilled down as far as we should have gone, because when we were talking about it, we're like, well, I'd let the doctors dictate it. But what about when the doctors say you have a very increased risk to tear your Achilles? That this is known, this has been proven, we've seen it with other players. The calf strain, especially immediately playing on it. You are tearing the fibers in your calf, which makes it weaker, and then it could eventually lead to the Achilles popping and you missing a full year. And others have said, there have been other athletes who say it took 2 years to come back from an Achilles to feel 100%.
Have there been other instances where somebody had a comparable situation, they got the same advice, and they made it through without getting hurt?
I'm sure. And who knows, another 40 minutes, and Haliburton would have done that.
Yeah.
So I think, what I want to know from you guys, and if you're, say you had a son going forward, say you're young enough and it was your career. Now, especially knowing with Haliburton, same situation. And I just think, again, that there are no wrong answers, but I'm wondering how people would go on this. And to put it all out there is, it's Game 6 of the NBA Finals. You're down 3-2. You have had one of the great postseason runs as a player. You may never get back. You made it to the conference finals last year. This could be your last best chance. He's young, sure, but as we 25. Know, ask Dan Marino that. Yeah. Ask anybody that. Ask Derrick Rose that. You have your best shot. And they tell you the risks. Yes, there is an increased risk that you could be out there and with one step you could tear your Achilles.
Now, I'll add this to the equation as well. And you may think it's callous, but it is reality. This is big business. He has a 5-year, $245 million contract.
I think it all goes into the calculator.
Yes. And somebody can sit and say, well, these guys don't play for the money. Fine. Money's part of the issue. It's one of the reasons why I think Caleb still has a lot of pressure on him. Because when it's time for him to actually sign that next contract, that may be a $600 million contract or a $500 million contract. So here, I believe once you have secured the bag, and I'm not telling you that Tyrese Haliburton is only motivated by money, but there is a certain degree of comfort that goes along with having signed that contract. That maybe you would be willing. If he hadn't signed that contract, he would have approached this differently.
Protected himself more.
And if that was the case, again, I don't see myself giving him hell for that. But I have to factor in the economics because this is a big business. I don't say it critically. I just say it matter-of-factly that this is part of the equation, in my opinion.
And I think the other part of it, too, is the other risk that you have, take money out of the equation, take what actually happened out of the equation. The other thing could happen too, where you decide not to play in Game 6, your team doesn't win, and you could have made it through because there is a chance you could still get through it and then hit the offseason and rehab. It's not a guarantee you're going to tear the Achilles, and what you have to live with for the rest of your career. Saying, I was 2 wins away from the NBA Finals, and I didn't give my shot or myself a shot or the team a shot to win it. I don't know if I could live with myself the rest of my career. I think that's the other side to this. And I bet you when the dust settles and he does his first sit-down interview that he will tell you he doesn't regret it whatsoever.
Yeah, that'd be my guess as well.
Because, like, that's tough. I would never say an athlete who does sit is wrong either.
Right.
It's your career. It's your well-being.
I know. As I've gotten older, I've felt like how I feel about this particular issue has changed. I'm not sure that the older and wiser, adage comes into play here, but I don't know. I just look at it differently, and maybe I would have responded differently several years ago. I couldn't, and I told you that last week. I wouldn't condemn him for either decision that he would have made.
I don't believe that there is, unless we find out that the team, I think there were rumors, and I don't know if that's why they didn't want to ask Bob Myers this. I want to bring that up, too. Bob Myers, who was involved in the KD Achilles tear.
Would have been a nice guy to access his memory bank for.
Too bad he's not on the coverage of the NBA Finals after it happened.
You and I had the same thought, though. The only reason that I can think of as to why that they didn't go there is maybe he requested them not go there.
Right, because I think there was controversy that did KD get all the correct information? Were there some things maybe they didn't inform him, or the risk, or they minimized the risk? I don't know that.
Maybe there wasn't full disclosure potentially.
And maybe that's why he didn't want to go there. But I would have thought, if this was our show, it would have been the first conversation you and I had before we went on the air.
Yeah.
Is we would say, we have to ask Bob Myers, as the front office man running that team, what went into the decision when you were there with KD, and how unsettling was it watching him? Like, what were the nerves like when he hit the floor? And then how did you feel when you watched that happen?
Was that a game? What game was that? Was that game?
It was game 6,
I think. That's the only real difference in those situations, isn't it? Like,
he was also going to be a
situation?
free agent. So that was the other part of it that I think upset a lot of people, was that he played and everybody was saying, like, see, these franchises don't care about you. If you're going to be gone, like, they don't care. And it was just one of those things where it's like, or Kevin Durant really likes basketball and wants to play in this basketball.
Sure. I just don't know, like, these high-profile athletes, if they can look themselves in the mirror and say to themselves, well, I know the risk. I do. The training staff told me, this is a risky move, because just look at the history now. It's just like a player with the forearm strain in baseball.
Yeah.
That could lead to Tommy John. That's a precursor to this. It's weakening everything else, and that thing can roll up like we saw it roll up. But you can also get through it, and how would you live with yourself if you didn't give it a shot? So this is not to play. Don't get this twisted or blame any of us here. I'm asking you, this is a personal decision. If this was your child or if this was you in your career, what would you do? Knowing that you could tear an Achilles and never be the same, or not be right for 2 years, or knowing that you left the NBA Finals and you could get out there because he was able to get up and move around, that there was a great risk of doing this. What would you do if this were your career?
I would play.
Like, I was thinking of you, too, because...
I mean, and I'm not saying that to say, look at me. I would just, that's how you're wired. That's your mentality is if you're capable of playing and you are that close to a title, I can't see myself not playing. I can't. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Because I was thinking about you with the concussion stuff. So, like, obviously in 1991, is that the year of the Cowboys game?
Yeah.
You suffered a concussion in that game, where today you would not have been allowed back.
No.
But if they, like, and they didn't, it was clearing the cobwebs. Shake it off.
Yeah.
Here's smelling salts.
And I don't blame the coaching staff or the medical staff, for we just didn't know at that time.
If given a choice and they would have said, hey, Tom, if we were more advanced than we were, and they said, you suffered a concussion, this can really lead to some bad stuff down the road. It's up to you. Do you want to go back out there?
Yes.
You would have said.
Yes, I would have.
I think most athletes are like you.
It doesn't make me right.
No, I mean, but what is right for your own body?
Yeah, you chose. That's the path you chose, and there was an inherent risk with it. There's an inherent risk with getting on your bicycle and riding it.
Of course.
I mean, women's soccer, girls' soccer, I believe, is the highest rate of concussions for high school students. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's girls' soccer.
Yes.
There is inherent risk attached to sports, especially physical sports. So it doesn't mean you're a gladiator or you're tougher than. No, it's just that's how you're wired. That's the best way I can describe it. That's just like who you are.
Jimmy on the north side, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Jimmy?
What's up, fellas? How you guys?
We're hanging in there. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, living the dream. Listen, so the athletes at this level, Waddle, you were talking about it. You're wired that way. Typically, I think as long as they're informed, they reserve the right to make the decision. But I guess I do wonder what age that is where that switches. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is it high school? Is it college? Like, at what point do you allow the athlete to be the ultimate decision maker when something like this is going on? Because this is unique. I've never heard of this with the calf strain being a Achilles a precursor, because that's a danger. I mean, that injury is brutal.
Brutal. Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah,
Which leads to another question is why is everyone getting them? But to identify or address your first question, I mean, look, at the very least, you have to wait till someone's an adult. Like, I mean, I would say, like Jimmy's saying, when does that threshold exist? If you're a 12-year-old kid, you don't get to decide. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you're a 14-year-old kid, I'm sorry, you don't get a chance to decide.
I think this was told in The Last Dance, but I remember when it happened during my life is when Michael Jordan in his second year broke his leg or foot. I forget
what his foot, wasn't it?
Yeah, he broke his foot. And then Jerry Krause put he pushed to come back Michael, and he put a minutes limit on him. And Michael's like, screw this minutes limit. And there was a lot of controversy with Michael, with the coaches, that they were doing the opposite. They were trying to protect their asset, and they were trying to look out for Michael's long-term health. And Michael's like, it's my body.
Yeah.
I'm healed. I'm going out there, and you're not saving me. And that was the same year he scored 63 against the Celtics.
Yeah. I mean, it takes me back to the Derek conversation as well, to be honest with you, and that's why I said part of me is, I can remember feeling like, why in the world? Derek's been cleared. It's been all this time. His doctors say he's fine. Why isn't he going to give it a try? And I was more on the side at that time, if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm not, of being like, I mean, this is not a good look for Derek, but it's his body. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say that this is a complete apples to apples comparison, but like, I mean, that's a decision he has to make.
It was. I've always said, and I will continue to say it, that was the most polarizing discussion we have ever had as a show. It really made people pick sides.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't a fan of what Derek did.
No, I wasn't either.
I wanted him to just try. Word out of practice was he was their best player in practice. I think multiple players wanted him to try. I think Taj and Noah wanted him to try too. But like you said, it was his body. And
it's hard for me to make a decision for someone else when it comes to their health and how they feel.
And then sure enough, he hurt it. Now it was 18 months, and then he hurt the knee again. Yeah. Not in the same way, coming back the next year. But 312-332-3776 if you want to discuss that. The other part of this that I was not ready for this morning when listening to these NBA analysts discuss this is what you guys were talking about with, and what Jimmy said with the precursor of these calf injuries and why they're happening. That we've seen now, 3 or 4 of these stars go down with the calf injury?
Yes.
Or with the Achilles?
Well, let's think. You've got Tatum.
Yeah.
You had KD a while ago.
Right.
You have Haliburton. You had Dame Lillard, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the 4 I can think of. Is there anybody else that I'm missing?
Well, in the playoffs, yeah, it's just the 3. KD was a couple years ago, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
So and these analysts are saying that the NBA, there need to be protections put up in the NBA for this. And I'm like, what do you mean protections? What? I don't understand that. Am I missing something there?
I don't know how you're going to protect it.
I still think that this load management has spun out of control. And we've always been for load management when hurt or nursing an injury or banged up. If you're that way and you want to take a game off or play less minutes because of that, like I always remember Luol Deng played 40 minutes after missing 8 games with a hamstring injury.
Right.
I thought that was careless. I thought you work a guy back.
It's reckless.
So, but I also don't want the other extreme happening where now they're running scared from calf injuries and Achilles injuries, and they're going to embrace more load management. Because I then just think we're not going to the root of the problem. Like, why? I don't think that working harder, like I heard a discussion today that J.J. Redick has said, well, the pace of the games are so fast, and they're putting more of a stress on their body during the game than the older players ever did, because the question always comes up, why didn't the older players ever have these? Why didn't we ever see any of these?
I read that where pace of play is being highlighted as maybe one of the reasons why.
Well, do you sprint during a 26-mile marathon?
No, you keep a pace.
You pace yourself.
Yeah.
So I would say that doesn't have to be because of work. You don't have to manage your workload. Maybe just play a little slower.
Yeah.
If this is really, I don't think so. I think if anything, they have more things at their disposal for rehab. They have more training ways. And I just don't think I think some of the old school ways sort of worked better.
I wouldn't even know if, like, the number of Achilles injuries today versus 15 years ago, are we just not, we don't have access to the information, or we're not wise to it? Maybe there were the same number of Achilles tears. Is this a new phenomenon, or is this something that has plagued the NBA over the course of the last decade plus? And is this really like ACLs? There's a ton of them usually, aren't there, in the NFL every year?
Yeah.
Now, there's more players, like some of that happens. I don't know. Is it? I heard somebody talking about shoes. You see a lot of guys wearing the low-cut shoes. Most guys wear low-cut shoes. I don't think anybody tapes their ankles. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Would that prevent some of this from happening with more support consistently throughout an 82-game schedule with your shoe wear? I mean, could that be a factor?
Get Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins on the horn.
That's true. I mean, both of those guys had to deal with it as well.
These modern, I don't know if it's modern training methods, and they still, I don't know. I don't know, but what I don't want is now Adam Silver saying, okay, everyone can have a couple free days off. That's why the league stinks during the regular season. Yeah. The playoffs were great. Injuries are going to happen. 312-332-3776. How would you proceed if it was you or a child of yours and you could play? And then if you want to discuss if you're worried about the NBA putting these safeguards in place, I don't get it. Tyler also made a statement when we bring this back to the Bulls during draft week. The draft is Wednesday. Tyler says Kobe White could be better than Tyrese Haliburton. I just don't see it, and this all comes together because of what do you do if you're the Bulls this week? If you want Josh Giddey, you're probably going to have to pay him a large sum of money. If you want Kobe White, his contract, I believe, is up in a year. Are you willing to make them your top 2 paid guys when I don't know if their top two team, they're worthy of that.
Basketball hell.
So we'll discuss that. I'll let Tyler state his case. If you want to weigh in, 312-332-3776. At 4 o'clock, Mark DeRosa makes a case for making a trade for the Cubs today. And I thought I heard Jesse say this morning, too, that, they may be exploring pitching sooner rather than later. So we'll play you that. A lot of bad umpiring over the weekend I want to get into, and some good stuff from Sam Presti from years ago. And it's always been a reason why I haven't loved Billy Donovan like other people have. 312-332-3776. If you want to discuss with us, it's Waddle and